You begin not with motion, but with stillness. Before equations, before names, before understanding, there is simply morning. The sun rises without announcing itself, and light travels a long, patient distance to arrive here. It reaches a leaf resting quietly in the open air, a thin green surface stretched wide, as if waiting. Nothing rushes. Nothing strains. The light does not fall, it settles. You imagine yourself close enough to notice how soft this moment is. Light has no weight, yet it presses gently against the leaf, the way warmth presses against your skin when you stand near a window. This is where the story of energy truly begins, not with force or flame, but with contact. A greeting. An arrival. The leaf does not chase the light. It does not pull or grasp. It simply stays open. In this openness, something ancient and reliable unfolds. Every morning, across forests and fields and quiet gardens, this same meeting happens again and again. Light meets life, and life listens. You might expect drama at the start of such an important process, but there is none. No flicker. No spark. Photosynthesis begins as a kind of attention. The leaf is built for noticing. Spread thin to maximize surface, filled with cells arranged like careful rooms, it waits in the way calm things wait, ready, but not tense. Sunlight is not a single thing. It arrives layered, carrying many colors braided together. To your eyes, it looks white or gold, but the leaf senses more. Still, it is selective. It does not accept everything it is offered. Like a body that breathes in oxygen and releases the rest, the leaf allows certain parts of the light to enter while gently turning others away. This choice is not conscious, yet it feels intentional. The green color you see is evidence of it. Green is not what the leaf takes in, it is what it reflects. The colors it keeps are hidden from your eyes, absorbed quietly into the leaf's inner spaces. Already, the story contains a lesson: what sustains life is often invisible. As you stay with this moment, you feel time slow. Light moves fast across the universe, yet here, at the leaf's surface, it seems to pause. The leaf does not hurry to use what it receives. Instead, it allows the energy to sink inward, to be distributed gently among tiny structures waiting inside each cell. These structures are not large or loud. They are small, orderly, and patient, arranged like shelves in a quiet library. Their role is simple but profound: to accept light without being overwhelmed by it. In a universe where energy can tear stars apart, life survives by learning how to receive power slowly. You sense how different this is from the way humans often treat energy. We burn it, release it quickly, consume it with urgency. The leaf does none of this. It teaches another approach. Energy, here, is not something to dominate. It is something to host. As light enters deeper into the leaf, it is no longer just sunlight. It becomes potential, possibility. A promise that something may be built, though nothing has been built yet. This early stage of photosynthesis is not about making food or releasing oxygen. It is about preparation. About being ready to change without changing too fast. You imagine this happening not just in one leaf, but everywhere. In tall trees lifting their leaves toward the sky. In grasses barely rising above the soil. In microscopic algae floating in oceans and lakes. The same quiet reception repeats itself billions of times each second, forming a soft hum beneath the surface of the living world. There is comfort in this repetition. You realize that life does not rely on constant invention, but on consistency. The sun rises. The leaf opens. Light arrives. This rhythm has held for hundreds of millions of years, long before there were eyes to see it or minds to name it. As you breathe, your chest rises and falls, and you notice the parallel. You, too, are always receiving something from the outside. Air enters you without effort, carrying what you need. You do not think about it. You trust the process. The leaf trusts the light in the same way. Photosynthesis, at its beginning, is trust made visible. There is no sound as this happens. No signal that something important is underway. If you walked past a leaf in the morning, you would notice nothing unusual. And yet, this quiet exchange supports almost all life on Earth. It feeds ecosystems, shapes climates, and builds the base of every food chain, all without demanding attention. The leaf does not know the future. It does not know whether clouds will arrive, or shade will fall, or insects will land on its surface. It receives light because that is what it does now. This moment is enough. You linger here, letting the simplicity settle into you. Light touching leaf. Energy entering life. The beginning of a long transformation that will unfold slowly, step by careful step. But this is only the threshold. The light has arrived, yes, but it has not yet been understood, sorted, or softened. Inside the leaf, deeper systems are waiting to take what has been received and decide what to do with it. As you rest in this calm beginning, you feel the question forming naturally, without urgency. Once the light is inside, how does the leaf hold it, shape it, and keep it from becoming too much? You begin to drift outward now, away from a single leaf and into the wider world. From above, the planet reveals itself slowly, like a body exhaling. Continents stretch and curve, oceans breathe between them, and everywhere there is green. Forests fold over mountains. Grasslands ripple like calm water. Even the seas carry a faint green haze where life floats just below the surface. This color is not accidental. It is the visible trace of a quiet agreement between earth and light. Green is the planet's skin. It is easy to think of color as surface, as something added at the end. But here, green is function before beauty. It is a sign that countless leaves, needles, blades, and microscopic cells are awake and listening. Each one holds within it a pigment that knows how to recognize sunlight, not by force, but by preference. This pigment is called chlorophyll, though the name matters less than what it does. You imagine it as a kind of attentive ear, tuned to a narrow range of light. Sunlight arrives full of possibilities, carrying waves of many lengths and energies. Chlorophyll does not accept them all. It is discerning. It absorbs what it can use and lets the rest pass by or bounce away. The light it keeps is invisible to your eyes. The light it rejects is what makes leaves appear green. This reversal feels important. What sustains life is hidden, while what is reflected becomes what you see. The world shows you what it does not take, and keeps quiet about what it needs most. As you move through this green world in your mind, you feel how widespread this listening is. Every leaf is a small antenna. Every blade of grass is a sensor. Every patch of algae drifting in water is tuned to the same distant source. The sun shines without intention, but the living world responds with remarkable precision. This precision does not come from complexity alone, but from restraint. Chlorophyll does not try to capture everything. Too much energy would overwhelm the delicate structures inside the cell. So plants evolve a balance, absorbing enough light to sustain life, but not so much that it causes harm. Survival, here, is about moderation. You realize how different this is from the human instinct to take more when more is available. Leaves do not hoard light. They take what fits their capacity. When the sun grows too strong, some leaves even adjust their position, angling themselves away slightly, protecting their inner workings. Listening also means knowing when to soften your attention. Inside each leaf, chlorophyll molecules are arranged with care. They are embedded in thin membranes, floating in orderly patterns. When light reaches them, it does not strike randomly. It is guided, passed along, shared between neighbors. Energy moves not as a burst, but as a whisper traveling through a crowd. This sharing matters. A single chlorophyll molecule cannot do much on its own. But together, thousands of them form a network, passing energy inward toward places where it can be handled safely. You imagine this like a group of people passing a fragile object hand to hand, each one careful not to drop it, each one aware of the next. The green skin of the earth is not uniform. It varies with climate, season, and latitude. In spring, it spreads eagerly. In autumn, it fades, as chlorophyll is broken down and stored away. Leaves reveal other colors that were always there, waiting beneath the green. Even this change is not loss, but transition. The listening pauses, but life does not end. You notice how this greenness connects land and water. On land, leaves stretch into air. In water, algae and plants drift, suspended, turning slowly so light can reach them from different angles. The same pigment works in both worlds, adjusting to different conditions, proving how flexible this system can be. This flexibility is key. Light is not constant. Clouds pass. Shadows move. Days shorten and lengthen. Chlorophyll responds without thought, absorbing when it can, resting when it cannot. It does not panic in darkness. It simply waits. You feel how deeply this patience is woven into life. Photosynthesis is often described as a chemical process, but at this stage, it feels more like awareness. The plant does not know what light is in words, but it recognizes its presence immediately. This recognition sets everything else in motion. As you walk through a forest in your imagination, you feel surrounded by quiet attention. Millions of leaves are turned upward, each one open, each one listening. The air feels thicker with purpose, though nothing is visible. Energy flows downward from the sky, touches green surfaces, and disappears inside. And yet, nothing has been made yet. No sugar. No stored fuel. The light has been captured, but not transformed. It is being held in a delicate balance, temporarily alive within the leaf's inner structures. This moment between arrival and use is fragile. You sense the tension beneath the calm. Light is powerful. If mishandled, it can damage the very systems that capture it. So the plant must act carefully next. It must pass the energy along, slow it down further, guide it to places where it can be reshaped safely. This is why the green skin of the earth matters so much. It is not just a covering. It is a filter, a mediator between the raw intensity of the sun and the quiet needs of life. Without it, the planet would be flooded with energy that could not be used. As you rest with this idea, you notice how often you rely on this unseen work. Every breath you take depends on leaves that listen well. Every meal traces back to chlorophyll doing its quiet selection. You are supported by choices made silently, far from your awareness. The light that chlorophyll absorbs is now ready to move on. It cannot stay here. Holding energy without using it is not sustainable. Somewhere deeper inside the leaf, systems are waiting not to burn the light, but to guide it gently, step by step, into motion. As the green world continues its listening, you feel the story leaning forward, toward the question that naturally follows. Once light is captured and held, how does life keep it from becoming fire, and instead turn it into something it can carry? You move closer now, slipping past the green surface of the leaf and into its inner rooms. The world here is small, careful, and astonishingly calm. Light has already arrived, already been chosen, already been welcomed. But it has not yet been allowed to act freely. This is the place where power is restrained. Inside the leaf, sunlight becomes something delicate. You imagine each particle of light, each photon, arriving like a tiny spark. In another context, sparks bring fire. They leap, they burn, they consume. But here, nothing flares. Nothing is destroyed. The leaf has evolved not to fear energy, but to soften it. The structures that handle light are called chloroplasts, though again, the name is less important than the feeling of them. They are small, green chambers floating within each cell, shaped like smooth pebbles. Inside them, thin membranes fold again and again, creating layers like pages in a book. These folds are not accidental. They slow everything down. Light does not rush through this space. It is caught, redirected, shared. When a photon meets a chlorophyll molecule, it does not explode. Instead, its energy is passed along, nudged from one molecule to the next, like a quiet signal traveling through a crowd. You sense how gentle this movement is. Energy flows, but nothing moves far. No single place bears the full intensity of the sun. The burden is distributed. This is how life survives contact with something so vast. You picture these molecules standing close together, each one ready, each one alert. When light arrives, it excites one molecule briefly, not violently, just enough to lift it into a higher state. Almost immediately, that excitement is handed off to a neighbor. Then another. Then another. A wave travels inward, but the water remains calm. This is not storage yet. It is transport. The leaf understands that energy must keep moving. Holding it in one place would be dangerous. So instead, it flows along invisible paths, guided by structures that have been shaped over millions of years. Nothing here is wasted. Nothing here is hurried. You feel how different this is from combustion, from fire, from the way humans often release energy all at once. Fire is fast and final. Photosynthesis is slow and reversible. It keeps options open. At the center of this quiet movement, something important happens. The energy carried by light is converted into another form, one that can be managed more easily. Instead of existing as pure excitement, it becomes a push, a nudge that frees tiny particles called electrons. Electrons are small beyond imagining, yet they carry possibility. When freed gently, they can move along pathways designed to guide them safely. The leaf creates these pathways deliberately, lining them with molecules that accept and pass on electrons one by one. You imagine a long, winding trail inside the chloroplast, with stations placed at careful intervals. Each station receives an electron, adjusts slightly, then hands it forward. This slow procession prevents chaos. Energy is broken into steps small enough to handle. As electrons move, something else moves with them, a gradient, a difference, a stored imbalance. It is subtle, but it matters. The leaf is quietly building potential, like water collecting behind a dam, not to flood, but to be released later in a controlled way. You notice how often life relies on differences rather than absolutes. Not heat, but warmth. Not speed, but direction. Not explosion, but flow. Here, energy is not used yet. It is shaped. All of this happens without sound, without light visible from the outside. If you could shrink down and watch, you would see no glow, no flash. Just motion too small and too smooth to notice. And yet, this motion is essential. Without it, the light captured earlier would fade uselessly, dissipating without purpose. The leaf does not allow that. Instead, it turns light into movement, and movement into readiness. The electrons continue their careful journey, and along the way, the leaf captures some of that energy into small, portable packets. These packets are like charged coins, not wealth yet, but the ability to buy something later. You feel how patient this stage is. Nothing has been built. No sugars have formed. The leaf is still preparing. It is creating the conditions needed for construction, gathering tools before beginning the work. This preparation depends on water, too. The water has not yet taken center stage. You sense it waiting nearby, filling spaces, flowing through channels. Water will soon be asked to give something up, but not yet. First, the energy must be ready to receive what water will offer. The beauty of this system is its balance. Light excites electrons. Electrons move along pathways. Energy is captured gradually. At no point does the leaf lose control. If the sun grows too intense, the system can slow itself. If clouds pass, it can pause. Flexibility is built into every step. You realize that catching sunlight without burning is not a single trick, but a philosophy. Life does not confront power head-on. It filters it, shares it, transforms it in stages. This approach is repeated everywhere, in ecosystems, in bodies, even in thoughts that arrive too strong and must be softened before they can be understood. As the electrons reach the end of their guided paths, the leaf is ready for the next transition. Energy is no longer just light. It has become a capacity, the ability to do work, to rearrange matter, to build. But one essential ingredient is still missing. Energy alone cannot create structure. Something must be taken apart to make room for something new. Something stable must be gently split. Water, calm and abundant, is waiting. As you rest inside this quiet flow of electrons in softened sunlight, You feel the story turning toward that moment, the first true offering, where water will step forward and release what it holds, allowing the transformation to continue. You arrive at a moment that sounds dramatic when named, yet feels almost tender when it happens. Water, so familiar it is often overlooked, drifts quietly into the center of the process. It has been here all along, flowing through roots, veins, and cells, filling spaces without asking for attention. Now, it is invited to do something extraordinary. Inside the leaf, water does not rush. It waits its turn. Water is stability. It is balance. It holds things together. You drink it without thinking. Rain falls and disappears into soil. Oceans carry it endlessly. And yet here, in this quiet green chamber, water becomes a giver. Not by force, not by violence, but by an elegant rearranging. You sense the careful timing of this moment. Energy has been softened. Electrons are ready to move. Pathways are open. Only now does the leaf ask water to step forward. Not to vanish, but to change. The splitting of water is often described as a reaction, but that word feels too sharp. What happens here is more like a gentle uncoupling. Water is held in place by surrounding structures, supported, stabilized. Then, guided by the energy that has traveled patiently from the sun, its parts begin to separate. Nothing shatters. Instead, water loosens its grip on itself. You imagine this like hands slowly opening after holding something warm. Hydrogen drifts one way, electrons follow new paths, and oxygen, suddenly lighter, prepares to leave. This is not destruction. This is redistribution. The leaf does not take everything. It never does. Oxygen, freed from water, is released. It does not linger. It slips outward, moving from the hidden interior of the leaf back into the open air. You might picture it rising like a quiet sigh, invisible and uncelebrated. No one marks its departure. And yet, this released oxygen will soon fill lungs, fuel fires, and shape entire ecosystems. The leaf does not need it anymore. This moment feels generous. Life here gives something away before it takes anything for itself. The oxygen released is not waste, it is a gift that reshapes the world. Long ago, this steady offering changed the atmosphere of Earth itself, making complex life possible. But the leaf does not know this history. It simply follows a rhythm it has always known. As oxygen leaves, what remains becomes useful. The electrons freed from water are carefully gathered. They are not allowed to scatter. They are guided immediately into the same controlled pathways you felt earlier, joining the slow current already moving through the system. These electrons carry energy forward, reinforcing the quiet momentum building inside the leaf. Hydrogen, too, stays close. It will be needed later, though not yet. Like a tool set gently aside, it waits for the right moment. You feel how deliberate this stage is. Nothing happens without preparation. Nothing is taken without purpose. Water is split only because the leaf has already built the capacity to handle what comes next. This is not impulse. It is choreography. As electrons move onward, something subtle but powerful grows. A difference builds across thin membranes, a separation of charge, a gentle imbalance. This imbalance is not a flaw. It is potential. Like water held behind a dam, it represents stored possibility. The leaf does not rush to release it. Instead, it allows this pressure to increase gradually, controlled and contained. Tiny particles flow in response, slipping through specialized structures that turn movement into usable energy. This energy is not dramatic. It does not glow. It does not heat. It simply becomes available. You might imagine this as a quiet hum beneath the process, a readiness that did not exist before. Light has been transformed. Water has been shared. And now, energy has taken a new shape, one that can be carried, saved, and spent later. All of this happens without a sound. If you were to place your ear against the leaf, you would hear nothing. And yet, inside, water has been split, oxygen released, electrons redirected, and energy captured. This silence feels important. It reminds you that not all meaningful change announces itself. You reflect on how often the most important shifts in your own life happen quietly, without witnesses, without ceremony. A realization forms. A habit changes. A breath deepens. The world looks the same, but something underneath has rearranged itself. The leaf understands this kind of change. The splitting of water also marks a point of no return. Light energy, once fleeting, has now been anchored into chemical form. It cannot simply fade away. It has become commitment. The leaf has invested effort. It must continue. You sense the process leaning forward, toward construction. The energy captured here will not remain abstract for long. It is already being packaged into small, reliable carriers, molecules that can travel deeper into the cell, carrying the memory of sunlight with them. These carriers are patient. They do not act on their own. They wait for instruction, for the next phase of the journey. Their existence is proof that the leaf is planning ahead. Water, having given what it can, returns to its quieter roles. It flows again, supports structure, moderates temperature. It does not cling to its moment of transformation. It simply continues. Oxygen drifts farther away, mixing into the air, becoming part of a shared atmosphere that connects all breathing things. You inhale without noticing, participating in a cycle that began long before you were aware of it. As you stay with this moment, you feel a deep sense of continuity. The sun offers energy. Leaves receive it. Water gives itself. Oxygen departs. Electrons move. Energy gathers. Nothing here exists alone. Each step depends on the one before it. The leaf has now done something irreversible and generous. It has given the world oxygen and kept for itself a quieter reward, stored energy, ready to be used. But energy alone cannot build life. It needs material. It needs something solid to shape, something drawn from the formless air itself. As the last traces of split water settle into their new paths, you feel the story turning gently toward the sky, toward an invisible guest drifting nearby, waiting to be invited in. The sun is generous, but it is never constant. It rises, it arcs, it slips away. Clouds interrupt. Night arrives without apology. Inside the leaf, this reality is deeply understood. Light cannot be relied on to stay. And so, life does something subtle and wise. It teaches energy how to wait. You feel the shift as the process slows even further. The urgency of capturing light has passed. The intensity of splitting water has softened. What remains now is careful preparation for the future. Energy, newly freed and shaped, is gathered gently, like warmth wrapped in cloth. Inside the leaf's inner chambers, the moving electrons begin to settle into new roles. Their journey along pathways has not been random. It has been purposeful, designed to load energy into small molecular carriers. These carriers are not dramatic. They are quiet, compact, dependable. You imagine them as sealed envelopes, each containing a little note written by sunlight. Not the light itself, but its instruction, its potential. These molecules can travel. They can wait. They can be opened later, when the moment is right. This is an important turning point. Until now, everything has happened close to the surface, near the place where light enters. But building life takes time, and time requires storage. The leaf cannot rely on the sun always being present when construction is needed. So it learns patience. Energy becomes portable. You sense how careful this conversion is. Energy is not simply trapped. It is stabilized, locked into chemical bonds that hold firm without strain. These bonds are strong enough to last, but flexible enough to release energy later without damage. Nothing here is wasted. Excess energy is not allowed to accumulate dangerously. If too much light arrives, the leaf redirects or dissipates it safely. Balance is maintained at every step. This restraint is not weakness. It is survival. You notice how often patience appears in living systems. Seeds wait underground. Animals store fat for winter. Your own body stores energy in quiet ways, preparing for moments of need you cannot predict. The leaf's patience is part of this larger pattern. As energy is packaged, it becomes usable beyond the immediate moment. The leaf is no longer dependent on the sun's presence to continue its work. Even as clouds pass overhead, even as evening approaches, something important can still happen inside. You feel the calm intelligence of this system. It does not panic when conditions change. It adapts in advance. The molecules carrying stored energy drift deeper into the chloroplast, toward regions where construction will eventually take place. They do not rush there. Movement remains slow and controlled. This is not about speed. It is about reliability. You reflect on how different this is from the way energy is often portrayed: explosive, urgent, demanding release. Here, energy is cooperative. It agrees to wait. It becomes a resource rather than a force. This waiting is not passive. It is intentional stillness. The leaf has transformed sunlight into something that can cross time as well as space. Energy captured now may be used minutes or hours later. It may even be shared with other parts of the plant, traveling beyond the leaf itself. The idea feels comforting. Nothing precious is lost just because the moment has passed. What arrives can be held. You imagine a forest at sunset. Light fades from the canopy, shadows deepen, and the world cools. Yet inside millions of leaves, work quietly continues. Energy gathered earlier hums softly in its stored form, ready when called upon. This is how life smooths out the unevenness of the world. The sun is irregular. Weather is unpredictable. Seasons change. But by storing energy, plants create continuity. They turn brief abundance into lasting support. As you linger here, you notice how this stage completes a transformation. Light has become electrons in motion. Electrons have shaped potential. Potential has been folded into stable form. Energy is no longer fleeting. It has memory now. And yet, nothing visible has changed. No sugar has formed. No structure has been built. The leaf has only prepared. This patience is profound. It resists the urge to rush toward results. You feel the rhythm slowing even more, inviting rest. This is a natural pause in the story, a held breath before the next action. The leaf has done everything it needs to do to be ready. But readiness is not fulfillment. Energy alone cannot create matter. It needs something to work on, something to shape and rearrange. Stored energy is like a set of tools laid out on a table, waiting for materials to arrive. You sense that the next step will not come from light or water, but from the air itself. Something invisible surrounds the leaf at all times, touching its surface, drifting through tiny openings. Something that has so far remained unchanged. Carbon, floating freely, uncommitted, is drawing nearer. As the leaf settles into its patient holding of energy, you feel the story lean forward again, toward the moment when air will begin to solidify, and the waiting energy will finally be asked to build. You shift your attention outward again, not toward light or water this time, but toward the air itself. It feels empty when you think about it, thin and insubstantial, something you move through without resistance. And yet, floating quietly within this vast openness is carbon dioxide, invisible, unremarkable, everywhere. It drifts without intention. Carbon dioxide is always present, moving freely, carried by winds, released by breath, fire, and decay. You exhale it without noticing. Animals release it. The soil releases it. The oceans exchange it with the sky. It is a quiet companion to life, rarely felt, rarely seen. Inside the leaf, tiny openings called stomata wait along the surface. They open and close gently, responding to light, moisture, and need. When they open, air slips inside. Nothing dramatic announces its arrival. Carbon dioxide simply wanders in, one molecule among many. You sense how effortless this is. The plant does not hunt for carbon. It allows it to come. Once inside, carbon dioxide begins a slow inward journey. It moves through spaces between cells, dissolving briefly, drifting deeper, guided by gradients rather than force. This movement feels passive, yet it is purposeful. The leaf has prepared carefully for this moment. Carbon arrives just as energy waits. You feel the contrast between the two. Energy has been captured, folded, and stored with great care. Carbon arrives loose, unshaped, its atoms held together only lightly. It is stable, yes, but simple. A small molecule, common and unassuming. And yet, carbon holds enormous potential. Carbon atoms are natural connectors. They can form bonds in many directions, creating chains, rings, and frameworks. Life depends on this flexibility. Without carbon, structure would be limited. With it, complexity becomes possible. The leaf understands this, though not in words. As carbon dioxide drifts deeper, it reaches a place where patience turns into action. The stored energy you followed earlier is ready. The tools are laid out. The materials have arrived. Here, carbon is invited to change. The transformation does not happen all at once. Carbon dioxide does not suddenly become food or tissue. Instead, it is gently guided through a series of small rearrangements. Bonds loosen. New bonds form. At each step, energy is spent carefully, like currency exchanged one coin at a time. You imagine this like weaving. Carbon threads are pulled from the air and slowly worked into a growing pattern. Nothing is rushed. Mistakes are corrected. Each movement is checked against the whole. This is where air begins to thicken. What was once invisible starts to take on weight and presence. Carbon atoms, once floating freely, are now held in place. They are no longer passing through the world, they are becoming part of it. You feel the significance of this moment. The boundary between air and matter dissolves. Breath turns into body. Sky becomes leaf. This process is so quiet that it is easy to miss how astonishing it is. Plants are not just using the air. They are building themselves out of it. The mass of a tree trunk, the firmness of a stem, the sweetness of a fruit, all of it begins with carbon pulled gently from the atmosphere. You rest with that thought, letting it settle. Every solid thing around you that once lived, wood, paper, fabric, food, was shaped from air. Life is condensed sky. The leaf does not take carbon greedily. It absorbs what it needs, when it needs it. If conditions are not right, the process slows. If energy runs low, construction pauses. Balance is maintained. You notice how careful this stage is compared to earlier ones. Light and water involve rapid, responsive changes. Carbon fixation, the process of bringing carbon into structure, is slower, more deliberate. It requires stability. It requires focus. The energy stored earlier now finds its purpose. It is spent not in bursts, but in measured steps, each one securing carbon more firmly into place. Energy flows into bonds, and bonds hold carbon steady. This is where form begins. You imagine the leaf gradually gaining substance, molecule by molecule. Nothing appears suddenly. Growth is incremental, almost imperceptible. And yet, over time, entire forests rise from this slow accumulation. As carbon is woven inward, the leaf becomes heavier in a way that cannot be felt by touch, only by consequence. It gains the ability to support itself, to extend, to feed other parts of the plant. Carbon dioxide, once free, has committed itself. You feel a sense of grounding here. The process draws life downward, anchoring it. Light came from above. Energy traveled inward. Now matter gathers, creating solidity and form. The plant is no longer just receiving. It is becoming. This stage connects deeply to your own body. The carbon in your muscles, bones, and skin once drifted through the air. It passed through leaves, became part of plants, moved through food, and finally arrived as you. You were made of borrowed atmosphere. That realization feels quiet and humbling. The leaf continues its work, repeating the same careful steps again and again. Each carbon atom is guided, positioned, and held. Errors are rare, but systems exist to correct them. Life values accuracy here. Structure depends on it. As carbon settles into its new roles, something familiar begins to emerge. The building blocks of sugars, though not yet complete, start to take shape. The architecture of nourishment is forming. But it is still unfinished. Carbon has been captured, yes, but it has not yet been arranged into the stable forms that can travel, be stored, or be shared. The leaf has gathered its raw materials, but construction is only beginning. As you linger in this moment where air becomes matter, you sense the next step approaching. Energy is waiting. Carbon is in place. Now, they must be woven together fully, into something recognizable, something lasting. The story leans forward toward the weaving, toward the quiet birth of sugar, where light and air finally take on a form that can feed the world. You arrive at a place where patience finally becomes creation. Everything is ready now. Energy waits, folded in calm. Carbon has drifted in from the air and agreed to stay. The leaf has gathered its tools, cleared its space, and settled into focus. What begins here is not sudden or dramatic, but it is foundational. This is where light and air learn how to become something you can touch. You sense the rhythm slow even further. Inside the leaf, carbon atoms are guided gently into new arrangements. They are not forced. They are persuaded. Energy, stored earlier, is released in small, careful amounts, just enough to loosen old bonds and encourage new ones to form. Each step is modest on its own. Together, they create something remarkable. This is weaving. Carbon moves from one temporary form to another, passed along like thread through a loom. Each transition is guided by precise structures that have evolved to recognize shapes, angles, and possibilities. Nothing here relies on chance. The leaf knows exactly how to bring these pieces together. You imagine watching this from very close, seeing atoms shift position, one at a time. It would not look like motion as you know it. It would feel more like intention, a steady leaning toward order. Gradually, a familiar shape begins to emerge. Sugar. Not sweetness yet. Not flavor. Sugar here is structure. It is stability made from light. A small, balanced molecule that holds energy and carbon together in a form that can travel, be stored, and be shared. This is the first true product of photosynthesis, and it carries within it the memory of everything that came before. Sunlight is folded into its bonds. Air is locked gently into place. Water has played its part. The sugar molecule rests, complete, quiet, and full of potential. You feel the importance of this moment ripple outward. Sugar is not just fuel. It is the starting point for almost all growth. From this simple form, plants build cellulose for cell walls, starch for storage, and countless other compounds that give shape and function to life. This is how light becomes solid. You notice how unhurried the process remains, even now. Sugar is not produced in a rush. The leaf does not try to make more than it can manage. Balance remains central. Too much sugar would disrupt the system. Too little would limit growth. Everything is tuned to need, not excess. As sugar molecules form, they begin to move outward from their place of creation, Some stay nearby, feeding the leaf itself, supporting repair and maintenance. Others are sent away, traveling through the plant's internal pathways to roots, stems, flowers, and seeds. This movement feels generous. The leaf does not keep what it makes only for itself. It becomes a source, sharing its quiet work with the rest of the plant. Roots underground, far from light, depend entirely on this gift. Fruits swell because of it. Seeds store it for future lives not yet imagined. You sense how interconnected this makes everything. A leaf high in the canopy feeds structures buried deep in soil. Light touching one surface supports growth far away. The plant becomes a conversation carried through sugar. And beyond the plant, the sharing continues. Animals eat plants. Other animals eat those animals. Energy and carbon move through bodies, ecosystems, and time, all tracing back to the slow weaving inside leaves. Every bite of food, every calorie burned, carries the imprint of this process. You are not separate from it. The sugar that fuels your thoughts, your movements, your warmth, begins exactly here. Light meets leaf. Air becomes matter. Sugar forms. Your body is part of this long, unbroken chain. This realization settles gently. You feel yourself included, not as an observer, but as a participant. The carbon in you once drifted through the sky. The energy in you once arrived as sunlight. Life is a continuous borrowing, a careful passing along. Inside the leaf, the weaving continues. Some sugar molecules are linked together, forming longer chains. These chains become strength fibers that allow the plant to stand upright, to lift leaves higher, to reach for more light. Other sugars are stored, tucked away for times when growth must pause. Nothing is wasted. Even excess sugar has a role. It can be converted, reshaped, or shared with nearby organisms. Roots release some of it into the soil, feeding communities of microbes that, in turn, support the plant. Cooperation extends outward in all directions. You feel how this quiet economy mirrors deeper patterns. Life thrives not by hoarding, but by circulation. Energy flows. Matter moves. Stability comes from balance, not accumulation. The creation of sugar is not an ending. It is a beginning repeated endlessly. Each molecule is both a result and an invitation, a signal that growth is possible, that repair can happen, that life can continue even when light fades. You imagine dusk settling over a field. The sun lowers. Shadows lengthen. Photosynthesis slows, then pauses. But inside the plant, sugar remains. Stored energy waits. Structure holds. The day's work carries the plant through the night. This continuity feels comforting. You reflect on how often you rely on things made quietly, far from your awareness. Strength you did not build. Energy you did not capture. Systems that worked while you slept. Life is full of such gifts. The leaf does not celebrate the sugar it makes. It does not pause to admire its work. It simply continues, repeating the same careful steps as long as conditions allow. This humility is part of its success. As sugar accumulates, the plant's future becomes possible. Growth, reproduction, resilience all depend on this woven outcome. Without sugar, life would remain fleeting, unable to hold form. You sense the story beginning to widen again. Sugar is not just nourishment. It is currency. It moves through networks, supports relationships, and shapes landscapes over time. Forests rise because sugar once formed. Civilizations eat because sugar exists in many forms. And yet, for all its importance, the making of sugar remains almost invisible. As you rest with this thought, you feel the pace slowing once more. The weaving is complete for now. The leaf has done its most creative work. What follows will not be about making, but about managing how energy is spent, saved, and shared across time. The sugar settles into its roles, and the plant breathes into a steadier rhythm. As night approaches in your imagination, a new question forms softly. Now that light has become food, how does the leaf decide when to use it, when to store it, and when to simply rest? You settle into a quieter pace now, one that feels deliberate rather than delayed. The great work of making sugar has been done, and the leaf does not hurry to do more. Instead, it shifts into a different kind of awareness, one that asks not how much, but when. This is the slow economy of leaves, where growth is guided not by urgency, but by timing. Inside the plant, sugar begins to circulate like a calm currency. It moves through veins and vessels, carried gently from places of abundance to places of need. Some of it fuels immediate work, repairing tissues, maintaining balance, supporting daily life. Some of it is set aside, stored quietly for moments that have not yet arrived. Nothing here is impulsive. The leaf understands that energy is precious not because it is rare, but because it arrives unevenly. Light comes and goes. Seasons shift. Rain may fall or not. The plant does not assume tomorrow will be generous. So it plans. You imagine this planning not as calculation, but as instinct refined over deep time. The plant senses its environment constantly. Length of day, angle of light, temperature of air, moisture in soil. All of these signals guide how sugar is used. If conditions are good, growth continues. Cells divide slowly. Leaves expand. Roots push deeper into the earth. The plant invests energy where it will return more toward light, toward water, toward stability. If conditions are uncertain, the plant becomes conservative. Growth slows. Sugar is stored instead of spent. Starches build quietly inside roots, stems, and seeds. Energy is tucked away like a memory, waiting. You feel how different this is from the way humans often relate to resources. Plants do not chase constant expansion. They grow when growth makes sense. They pause when it does not. This restraint is not fear. It is wisdom shaped by survival. Inside each leaf, countless decisions like this are made without thought or hesitation. Sugar molecules are directed here instead of there. Some are transformed into structure, becoming part of cell walls that lend strength and shape. Others are converted into forms that can be stored densely, compact and ready. The plant does not waste energy keeping everything active all the time. Maintenance itself costs energy. So sometimes, rest is the most efficient choice. You begin to see rest differently here. Rest is not absence of activity. It is a strategic quiet. A lowering of demand so that reserves can build. Even when growth pauses, the plant is still very much alive, attentive, responsive. This rhythm of spending and saving repeats across the living world. Animals store fat. Trees store starch. Seeds store entire futures in miniature. Life has learned that survival depends not just on making energy, but on holding it wisely. As you follow sugar deeper into the plant, you notice how generously it is shared. Leaves feed stems. Stems feed roots. Roots, in turn, support leaves by gathering water and minerals. The plant is not a collection of competing parts. It is a cooperative whole. This cooperation extends beyond the plant itself. Some sugar leaks into the soil through roots, feeding communities of microbes and fungi. These organisms return the favor by improving access to nutrients and water. Energy circulates outward, strengthening relationships that make the entire system more resilient. You sense how slow and patient this exchange is. Nothing demands immediate return. Trust is built over time. The slow economy of leaves is not driven by profit, but by continuity. The goal is not maximum output today, but survival across many tomorrows. Growth that happens too quickly can be fragile. Growth that is slow tends to last. You think of forests that take centuries to mature. Of trees that grow rings year by year, recording history in wood. Each ring represents a season of decisions: how much energy to spend, how much to save. Leaves, though temporary, are part of this long story. They appear, work, and eventually fall away, but the energy they gathered lives on inside the plant. Even loss is integrated into the system. As daylight continues, sugar continues to move, to be allocated, adjusted, refined. But gradually, the angle of the sun changes. Shadows stretch. Light softens. The leaf senses this shift immediately. Photosynthesis begins to slow. This slowing is not abrupt. There is no switch flipped. Instead, the process gently winds down. Light becomes less intense. Energy capture becomes less efficient. The leaf responds by easing its activity, reducing the flow of sugar production. But the economy does not stop. What has already been made remains. Stored energy waits. Circulation continues. The plant transitions smoothly from making energy to using what it has. You feel the grace of this transition. Nothing is wasted simply because the sun is setting. The plant has prepared for this moment all day. As evening approaches, some sugars are moved deliberately into storage, converted into forms that will last through the night. Others remain available for immediate needs. Balance is maintained. You imagine a field at twilight, leaves darkening, photosynthesis quieting everywhere at once. From a distance, nothing seems to be happening. But inside every plant, energy is being managed carefully, ensuring that night will not be a crisis. This preparedness feels deeply reassuring. You notice how this rhythm mirrors your own days. Activity rises and falls. Effort alternates with rest. The body stores energy, then releases it. Sleep itself is a kind of economy, a time when the work of repair and balance continues quietly. The leaf knows this rhythm well. It has practiced it for millions of years. As darkness draws closer, the work of capturing light is nearly finished for now. The slow economy shifts its focus entirely. What matters next is preservation, balance, and readiness for morning. You feel the story easing into a darker, quieter space, not an ending, but a change in tone. The leaf is about to enter a different mode of life, one that does not depend on sunlight at all. As the last light fades and the green world grows still, a gentle question forms in the quiet. When photosynthesis sleeps, what unseen work continues through the night, keeping life steady until dawn returns? Night arrives without ceremony. The sun slips below the horizon, and with it, the steady stream of light fades. Across forests, fields, and waterlogged plains, the green skin of the earth darkens. From the outside, it appears as if the world has gone still. But inside the leaf, rest does not mean silence. It means a change in work. Photosynthesis sleeps now. The capturing of light pauses naturally, without resistance. The leaf does not strain for what is no longer available. It accepts the dark as part of the rhythm it has always known. Yet even in this darkness, life remains busy in its own quiet way. You feel the tone soften as night takes over. The sharp task of receiving light is replaced by something slower, steadier. The leaf turns inward, tending to what already exists. Sugar, made during the day, becomes the central focus. It is no longer being woven, it is being used. Some of it is gently broken down, releasing energy in controlled amounts to fuel essential processes. This breakdown is calm, measured, and efficient. Nothing burns. Nothing rushes. Energy moves now not from the sun, but from within. You imagine this like a home after sunset. The doors are closed. The lights are dimmed. Inside, quiet tasks continue: cleaning, organizing, repairing small damages that went unnoticed during the day. The leaf does the same. Cells check their structures. Proteins are adjusted. Membranes are repaired. Errors made during the day's activity are corrected carefully. This maintenance is constant, but night gives it space to happen without competition from photosynthesis. The leaf breathes differently now. During daylight, gases move in one rhythm, shaped by the demands of light-driven work. At night, that rhythm shifts. Oxygen is taken in. Carbon dioxide is released. The plant, like you, relies on stored energy to keep itself alive. Respiration continues quietly, linking plant and animal in a shared dependence on sugar. This shared process feels intimate. You and the leaf are no longer doing opposite things. In the dark, your metabolisms mirror one another. Both of you are living off what was gathered earlier. Both of you are conserving, repairing, sustaining. The night feels connective. As sugar is used, the plant remains careful. It does not spend more than it must. Reserves are protected. Some energy is earmarked for growth, some for defense, some simply to make it through until morning. This prioritization happens without thought, guided by deeply embedded signals. You sense how much trust is involved here. The plant trusts that the sun will return. It trusts that holding some energy back is wiser than spending it all. This trust has been earned across countless nights survived. In deeper tissues, far from the leaf, roots remain active. Underground, they continue to absorb water and minerals from the soil, feeding the rest of the plant. This work does not depend on light, and so it continues uninterrupted. The plant is never entirely asleep. You imagine the soil at night, alive with quiet motion. Roots extend slowly. Microbes trade nutrients. Fungi exchange resources through delicate threads. Sugar released by roots feeds this underground network, maintaining relationships that support the plant's future. Night strengthens community. Above ground, leaves cool. Their surfaces release heat accumulated during the day. Water movement slows. The plant settles into a steadier internal temperature. This cooling matters. It protects delicate systems from stress and allows chemistry to proceed more reliably. You notice how restorative this cooling feels, even in your own body. Night gives everything permission to slow down. Inside cells, messages are exchanged. Signals move from leaf to stem to root, reporting on conditions, needs, and reserves. The plant coordinates itself continuously, even in darkness. Nothing is left unmanaged. This ongoing communication feels like awareness, though it has no center, no voice. It is distributed, quiet, and effective. You begin to sense how ancient this rhythm is. Long before eyes evolved, long before animals slept, plants were already living this cycle of light and dark, work and rest. The alternation shaped their chemistry, their structures, their timing. Your own sleep follows patterns set by the same planet, the same turning earth. Darkness cues your body to repair, to sort memories, to rebalance hormones. You are not separate from this cycle. You are synchronized with it. The leaf does not dream, but it does prepare. Some sugars are converted into forms that will be especially useful at dawn, when light returns and photosynthesis must restart quickly. Enzymes are readied. Pathways are kept flexible. The plant ensures that no time will be wasted when morning comes. This preparation is quiet optimism. Even in complete darkness, the plant behaves as if light is inevitable. It plans for return, not absence. This forward-looking calm feels deeply reassuring. As the night deepens, activity slows further. Maintenance gives way to steady maintenance. Respiration continues at a gentle pace. The plant holds itself together through stillness. You imagine a forest under moonlight. Leaves barely move. Air cools. The world feels held. And yet, inside every plant, countless processes continue, each one small, each one essential. Nothing is dramatic. Nothing is loud. Life persists through attention to detail. You feel your own breathing slow as you follow this rhythm. Inhale. Exhale. Energy used. Energy conserved. Repair without awareness. The parallel feels natural, almost comforting. Night is not a void here. It is a container, a space where what was built during the day is protected and refined. Without night, the work of light would be fragile. Without darkness, balance would be lost. The leaf understands this deeply. As the hours pass, reserves remain steady. The plant neither starves nor overindulges. By the time the first hints of dawn approach, everything is in place. You sense the system leaning gently toward morning, not in haste, but in readiness. Photosynthesis will wake again soon. Light will return. Work will shift once more. For now, the leaf rests in its quiet labor, sustained by what it made and guided by a rhythm older than memory. As you drift alongside this sleeping world, one final thought settles softly. When dawn arrives and light touches the leaf again, how does this vast, silent work scale upward, feeding not just a plant, but an entire planet. Now, you rise above the single leaf and expand your vision. The forest stretches beneath you, a vast green tapestry stitched together by countless leaves like the one you have explored. Beyond the trees, grasslands ripple in the wind, and oceans shimmer under the sun. Each surface, each leaf, each blade of grass, each tiny algal cell in the sea is quietly capturing light, splitting water, weaving carbon into sugar. You realize, gently, that you are witnessing the engine of life itself. Photosynthesis is everywhere. It does not boast or proclaim. It simply functions. Day after day, year after year, it converts light into energy, air into matter, potential into structure. From the leaf you followed, to the grass underfoot, to the phytoplankton floating in the ocean, the process is repeated over and over, invisibly, yet with effects that ripple across the planet. Every breath you take carries its signature. Oxygen produced long ago by leaves now fills your lungs. Every meal you eat, vegetables, grains, fruit, even the meat that once fed on plants, contains the product of light captured and transformed. You begin to perceive the subtle reality: the food you digest, the energy you use, the life you sustain, all trace back to this quiet, persistent work. This system is vast and intricate. Forests store carbon in their trunks and roots. Oceans hold sugar and energy in microbial networks. Grasslands cycle nutrients through soil and air. Each environment operates according to the same principles you have seen in a single leaf: capture energy carefully, manage it wisely, and distribute it slowly. Patterns repeat at scales you can scarcely imagine, yet they are all connected. The engine runs on cycles and balance. It has been operating for billions of years, shaping the Earth's atmosphere, stabilizing climates, building soils, sustaining countless species. Photosynthesis has sculpted the very world you inhabit, creating conditions that allow for complex life to emerge and persist. Its success is quiet but profound, a reminder that power need not be dramatic to be transformative. You feel a deep sense of humility as you observe this interconnected web. Leaves in distant forests support animals halfway around the globe. Sugar produced by phytoplankton feeds fish that eventually sustain humans. Energy captured by one organism ripples outward, connecting ecosystems in ways that are almost imperceptible, yet unbreakable when the system functions. The Earth itself breathes through these processes. Carbon flows in and out of the atmosphere, oxygen fills and empties in quiet tides, energy cycles through countless intermediaries. Everything is in motion, yet the rhythm is calm. There is no haste. There is no panic. Life persists because it learned to manage, to balance, to coordinate. You notice the fragility of this balance. Too much disturbance, deforestation, pollution, climate shifts can disrupt the cycle. The quiet engines you have followed are resilient, yes, but they are not infinite. Their ability to sustain life depends on the steady persistence of countless interactions, each small and precise. You feel a soft tension, an awareness that something so essential can be so delicate. And yet, there is also hope in this awareness. The same processes that build and maintain life can recover if given space and care. Leaves grow back. Oceans renew. Forests regrow. The engine of photosynthesis continues, persistent and patient, if we allow it to. You begin to see how remarkable this is on a personal level. Every act of life, every breath, every bite, every movement relies on this ancient, unseen labor. You participate in it without noticing, yet you are inseparable from it. Your energy, your structure, your very body is a living echo of the sun's touch on leaves long ago, a continuation of the process you have followed in this journey. As you drift over the canopy, the world below feels alive, awake even when darkness falls. Leaves continue their cycles, flowers rest, algae flourish beneath the waves, roots draw nutrients from the soil. The planet is never entirely still. Photosynthesis pauses and resumes, rests and continues, an eternal pulse that sustains the web of life. You imagine zooming even further outward. The Earth itself rotates in space, spinning under a sun that delivers light in predictable arcs. Oceans shimmer, forests glisten, deserts stretch wide under unyielding skies. Each point on the planet contributes to the collective work. No single leaf, no single patch of plankton, dominates, yet each is indispensable. The whole emerges from countless quiet parts, each following the same careful rules: capture, store, distribute, sustain. In this moment, you understand the scale of interdependence. Life does not operate in isolation. You are witnessing an invisible economy of energy and matter that has been functioning long before humans existed and will continue long after. It is a system that both humbles and reassures, showing that persistence and care matter more than force. You feel the story of light you began within a single leaf expand to encompass all life. Energy captured, water split, carbon fixed, sugar woven, these are not isolated events. They are the foundation of the food you eat, the air you breathe, the ecosystems you inhabit. Without them, life as you know it would not exist. And yet, within this vast scale, the process remains intimate. You are reminded of the leaf you first followed, its quiet choreography of photons and electrons, its careful splitting of water, its patient weaving of sugar. That small green chamber contains within it the principles that sustain forests, oceans, and fields. The microcosm reflects the macrocosm. You realize that this is the engine of the planet, a continuous, silent, tireless conversion of sunlight into the fabric of life. It is neither noisy nor boastful, but it is utterly essential. Without it, nothing could grow, nothing could breathe, nothing could endure. Every part of the system, no matter how small, contributes to the maintenance of balance. Your mind drifts gently with this thought. The scale of the process is vast, yet it feels like a story you can step inside. Every leaf, every plant, every organism is part of an ongoing narrative, a continuous interplay between light, water, carbon, and energy. You have been following the story from its smallest, quietest stage to its planetary reach, and it has been consistent, patient, and remarkably gentle in its persistence. Now, as the sun dips below the horizon in your imagination, you sense the transition from day to night across the globe. The engines you have observed continue to operate in cycles. Sugar stored during the day sustains life at night. Roots continue their work. Oxygen circulates. The planet breathes. Even in darkness, the story carries on. You feel a profound calm. Everything is connected. Energy captured in a leaf somewhere far away supports life here, now, where you exist. You are neither separate nor above the system. You are inside it, a participant in the quiet economy of light, air, and water. And so, you settle into the rhythm. Breathing aligns with the cycles of energy and matter you have followed. Thought slows. Awareness softens. You are present with the entire system, yet lightly, like a gentle observer of a world that continues with or without your attention. The planet's quiet engines reassure you of continuity. Even when individual leaves fall, even when clouds obscure the sun, the process persists. Life is both fragile and resilient, demanding care, yet offering stability. You feel gratitude for the slow, patient work that sustains everything around you. You drift over forests, oceans, and fields, taking in the collective movement of energy. Each leaf, each stem, each blade of grass participates. Photosynthesis is not just background. It is the foundation, the engine, the sustaining rhythm. It has brought life from sunlight, woven air into structure, and allowed the world to exist as you know it. As your vision softens, you allow yourself to rest inside this thought. Life flows from captured light, carried by patient processes, supported by countless unseen acts of chemistry and structure. You are part of this flow. You are included in the quiet miracle that unfolds every day, every season, every year. And as you drift towards sleep, your mind rests on a gentle, unresolved wonder: how fragile, yet how precious, is this balance, and how will the choices of today shape the continued hum of this silent, life-giving engine tomorrow?